It is known as the Land of Gold as a result of the elegant tapering spires of the many Buddhist pagodas here. Entrenched in Buddhism, the ancient temples, relics, and many quirky trades of the city are the muse of many a writer. This is Myanmar. It lies at the crossroads of Asia's greatest civilizations, India and China. There is a beauty and graciousness about Myanmar that is almost elusive. At times most unexpected, the country reveals hints of itself that takes your breath away. As the newest member of ASEAN, the former socialist country's relative isolation has also helped it preserve its way of life. The 52 million population people, content with their simple way of life, is a large part of the country's appeal. The many different snapshots of Myanmar present a charm that is timeless, natural, yet abounding with beauty. Mandalay, an hour's flight away from Myanmar's former capital Yangon, has always been regarded as the cultural centre of Myanmar. It is historically the most indigenous of the country's large cities. Many believe that to get close to the heart of Myanmar, you have to be in Mandalay. And it was right here in Mandalay that Mama Nine decided to set up the Mandalay Marionettes Theatre Group. 53-year-old Mama Nine was running a gift shop in Mandalay when her interest in puppetry was piqued.
One day a German couple came to buy some puppets to my shop, but they didn't buy any puppets. For the reason I couldn't show them manipulation of the puppet. And on that point, I was ashamed of that on that point. That is not for the business, because I didn't know how to manipulate the Myanmar string puppet.
Popular belief credits the appearance of the marionette theatre to the 11th century Bagan period. But it reached the peak of its popularity in the 19th century, between 1820 and 1885. A highly regarded royal pastime, its popularity far exceeded live dances and performances. The smiles of these yukte, or small dolls, inspire reminiscences of this almost forgotten past. Marionette shows were meant to entertain royalty and educate the masses in literature, religion, and current events. And as the Myanmarese are a people predisposed to preserving what they call tonzan, or tradition, most of the original marionette cast from the bygone era are retained.
The writing didn't at first allow human dancers on the stage, so the lifeless marionette dancers had a great opportunity to be on the high-level stage above the right audience. That's why it's called a Myen Tapin, the performance on the high level.
In feudal society, not only was it unthinkable for socially inferior entertainers to be on a raised dais higher than royalty, it was also the height of impropriety for men and women to dance within an arm's length. Marionettes were an ingenious way around these problems. When once kings were the patrons of the past, tourists are the patrons of today. This theatre was built specially for tourist performances that last for an hour. The first marionette to appear at every performance is the Nakgador, or the spirit medium. She dances the ritual dance, offering coconuts and bananas as a form of respect to the guardian spirits of the area. What is performed here is an abridged version of a traditional marionette show. Jatakas, which are stories about Buddha's life, are the mainstay of marionette performances. When performing for the locals, the entire show can go on for at least 9 hours. But whether it's a show for locals or tourists, the pièce de résistance of any marionette show is the dance of the alchemist, or the Zorji. The merry magician of the forest is a character well loved by the Myanmarese. The Zorji marionette has the least number of strings, but his dance steps are fast and complicated. This is one of the hardest marionettes to manipulate. Any puppeteer who handles the Zorji well is considered a master of the art. 77-year-old Upan A former manipulator with the Shwebo Tin Wang troupe, started learning the art of puppetry at the age of 17. He is the only one in the troupe who can delicately handle the Zorji marionette.
6လတဲ့နဲ့ကျုပ်တတ်တာဒီကြောကြီးအဲ့ဒီ6လတဲ့တတ်တာကိုဆရာတွေကကြောတတ်တယ်မိဆွဲကောင်းတယ်ညံကောင်းတယ်အမှတ်ကောင်းတယ်အဲ့ဒါကြောင့်မလို့ဆရာတွေက6လတဲ့နဲ့ကောင်းရမလားလို့အချိန်မခံရပါတယ်လေ့လာတဲ့ယူစဉ်ခါတုန်းကတော့အခက်ခဲတွေကကျိုးတွေရည်ရည်နေတဲ့အချိန်အဲ့ဒါကိုပြုံးနေတော်တော်နဲ့မမှတ်မိနိုင်ဘူး ဂျုံထိုးချလိုက်တာလေးတွေဒုတ်ကိုလှန်တင်လိုက်တာလေးတွေအဲ့ဒါတွေကြတော့ခက်ရခဲစီပါလာတာလေးတွေကြတော့အဲ့ဒါမမှတ်မိမှတ်မိအောင်မလုတ်တတ်အောင်မနဲ့လေ့လာကြည့်နေမှဆရာပြတာလို့တူးလာတာပါပဲ
The puppeteer, however skilled, forms only one part of the equation. His or her art has to be combined with that of the musician and the vocalists. Most vocalists have such retentive memories that they can work without a script. This is the true art of the marionette theatre. When the three, the marionette, the puppeteer and the vocalist, become one, magic ensues. And tourists flock from around the world to catch a glimpse of this precious dying art. In the high season, this little theatre sees more than 2,000 tourists a month. Just south of Mandalay is the Shan State, another stunning narration of Myanmar's diverse natural beauty. There sits a placid blue lake, ringed by mountain ranges that disappear into the far mists. The Inle Lake, which stretches for 11 kilometers, is, to quote one travel guide, outrageously beautiful. This lake doesn't have a shoreline. You can't walk directly around it. But around 17 villages, 70,000 people live on the shores and islands of this lake. And Inle Lake is abuzz with the regular community and spiritual activities, giving the impression of a magical world afloat. 50-year-old Tintin Yi was born and bred at the Inle Lake. She is part of the Intha group, the largest group of inhabitants of the lake. Intha means sons of the lake, and the Inthas have made Inle their home for centuries, adapting remarkably to life on these tranquil waters.
ကျမဒီမှာကြီးပင်းလာရတဲ့ဘဝကိုလည်းကျမကျေနပ်တယ်ပေါ့လေ။ဘာဖြစ်လို့လဲဆိုတော့ဒီအင်းလေးကန်ကြီးကတောင်ပေါ်ပင်တဲ့သဘောမျိုးလေးဖြစ်နေတယ်။အင်းလေးကန်ကြီးကသူများနဲ့မတူတဲ့ထူးခြားတဲ့ကန်ကြီးတစ်ခုဖြစ်ပါတယ်။ဘာဖြစ်လို့ဖြစ်တာလဲဆိုတော့သူကများသောအားဖြင့်ရေကန်ဆိုတာဟာမြေပြန့်မှာရှိတာများပါတယ်။ဒီလိုမျိုးရေမျက်နှာပြင်အမြင့်ပေပေါင်း3000ကျော်တဲ့မှာတောင်တွေဝိုင်းရံပြီးအလဲကောင်မှာရေဖြစ်နေတဲ့အင်းလေးကန်လိုမျိုးတစ်ခုဖြစ်တဲ့အတွက်ကြောင့်မို့သူကထူးခြားတယ်လို့ကျမတို့ကဆိုနိုင်ပါတယ်။
10 years ago, Do Tin set up a resort and restaurant at Inle Lake. She was one of the first ever Intha entrepreneurs. As the Inthas are a conservative community, Do Tin met with a lot of resistance when she first mooted the idea of hosting foreigners at the Inle Lake. ဒီလိုအင်းလေးဒေသမှာဒီဟိုတယ်ကြီးကိုဖွင့်လိုက်တဲ့အတွက်ကြောင့်မို့လို့လေဘာဖြစ်လို့ဖွင့်ချင်ခဲ့ရတာလဲဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ဒီလိုမျိုးဒေသမှာကျမဟာဒီအင်းလေးဇာတိဖြစ်ပြီးအင်းသားတယောက်အင်းသူတယောက်ဖြစ်ပါတယ်အဲ့တော့ဒီဒေသမျိုးမှာကျမတို့ဒီဟိုတယ်တစ်ခုဆောက်လိုက်ရတယ်ဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ကျမတို့အင်းသူအင်းသားတွေအများကြီးဟာညအမျှော်မြင်နဲ့ပွင့်နေလာမယ်အလုပ်အကင်တွေလည်းအများကြီးရရှိလာမှာဖြစ်ပါတယ်။နိုင်ငံတော်အစိုးရကနေပြီးတော့လေဒီ visit မြန်မာရဲဆိုပြီးလှုပ်လိုက်တဲ့အတွက်ကြောင့်မလို့နိုင်ငံတော်ရဲ့ပံ့ပိုးမှုတွေအများကြီးပါပါတယ်tourism တွေဝင်ခွင့်ပေးလိုက်တဲ့အတွက်ကြောင့်မလို့လေဒီဒေသလူတွေအများကြီးကိုတိုးတက်ပြီးတော့မှအမြင်ကျလာကြတယ်ပေါ့လေ The Inthas have always been a self-sufficient set. This is the only place in the world where you can find a farm that floats. Flower and vegetable gardens are set adrift, secured to the bottom of the lake with bamboo poles. These are rich, fertile plots for cultivating a wide variety of subsistence crops that include tomatoes, cauliflowers and melons. ဒီခရမ်းရင်ဒီစိုက်ခင်းကြီးကိုစလိုက်တဲ့ဒီ floating garden ကိုစလိုက်တဲ့အချိန်ကဆိုရင်လွန်ခဲ့တဲ့နှစ်ပေါင်း50ကျော်ကနေဒီ floating garden ကိုစလိုက်ပါတယ်။စိုက်ပြီးသူဒီထွက်လာတဲ့ခရမ်းကျင်ဒီကိုဗမာတပြည်လုံးကိုသူတို့ဖြန့်ဖြူးပေးပါတယ်။ဇုံဒီရေပေါ်စိုက်ခင်းဖြစ်ဖို့အတွက်ဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ဒီကျွန်းမျိုးတွေကိုတောထဲမှာရှိတဲ့ဒီတင်ဆွေးတင်မြစ်တွေကိုစုပြီးတော့မှဒီလိုကျွန်းမျိုးကြီးဖြစ်လာပါတယ်။အဲ့ဒီပုံမှာသူတို့ရေမှော်တွေထပ်တင်တယ် natural fertilizer ခေါ်တာပေါ့နော်ဒီ The abundance of these crops is best seen in the vast open-air floating markets that operate on a 5-day rotation. But one aspect of the Inle Lake that fully encapsulates its spirit are the legendary Intha fishermen. They row their boats standing up, not sitting down, using their legs instead of their arms to power the paddle. The origin of the technique is uncertain, but it is believed that the practice began in the 12th century to enable the fishermen to navigate above the floating gardens. The fishermen fish by using a conical trap made of bamboo, which they would lower into the water. This unique fishing tradition was invented and perfected by the Inthas.
ပိတ်ခွန်းနဲ့ပြင်ပေါ်ငါးနေတော့အတီးပဲရပေါ့အများကြီးရပေါ့ဒီအုပ်ဆောင်တဲ့အော်ပေါ့ငါအကြီးလေးနေရတယ်တကောင်နင်းတကောင်ရပေါ့ပိတ်ခွန်းနဲ့ဆိုပြီးတော့ပြစ်လိုက်ရင်တော့အတီးလေးပဲရငါအများကြီးတော့ရတယ်ကျွန်တော်တို့တော့ဒီအုပ်ဆောင်တဲ့ဆောင်းရင်တော့ငါအကြီးရပေါ့ဘုံတော့ကျွန်တော်တို့ဒီကန်ရဲနဲ့ပေးပါပေါ့ဒီတောင်ရဲပါဝင်ထားပြီးတော့ဒီအင်းလေးပြင်ထဲမှာကျွန်တော်တို့ငါဖန်သမားရဲ့ကရှိတော့တစ်ဖက်လေးနဲ့ပေါ့နော်ဒီအုပ်ဆောင်လေးနဲ့နင်းပေါ့ပြီးတော့ရှူနေကလာတဲ့အေးတဲ့နေပေါ့နော်နိုင်ငံခြားအေးတဲ့နေကကြီးမြင့်ပြီးတော့အားကြတယ်ပေါ့ဒီအင်းလေးကတကယ်ကိုကြားရပါလားတကယ်ကိုကြိုကြားနေပါလားကျွန်တော်တို့ဒီမြန်မာနိုင်ငံအင်းထဲမှာလေကျွန်တော်တို့အင်းထဲကပေါ့နော်အကြိုကြားဆုံးပေါ့
The lake also lays claim to several thriving cottage industries. In addition to being skillful fishermen and farmers, the Inthas are also master weavers and manufacturers of the shan paper. These oiled shan paper umbrellas are used exclusively by monks and nuns. Every single part is worked by hand, using techniques handed down from one generation to the next. So too is the art of Padonma lotus weaving. This originated here in Inle some 90 years ago. the sap of freshly cut lotus stems. Robes woven from the lotus are sweetly scented.
In the Gamma Pop the Jarabe, Jahmin Pubio Trade, the Chadita Masia Jahmin Trebu Trade, in the Dita of Trepuboli, and I Jamu Levet in the Dita Reha, special Pinia Jim Pipari. The Jazaha, Papilo Tomia Tadareso, Keke, Lenne, Sasso, Lenne Lokan Yari, Lungan to Kumulu, Nabromata, Trentonet Amia, Pianamuli, and I Jamu Leve, the Jatinga Tomia Tajim Pipai.
Is more than just a world of pagodas, picturesque villages, floating gardens and leg rowers. It is a society that reflects the wisdom and values of the Intha group in Myanmar. If Mandalay is the cultural heart of Myanmar, Bagan is its spiritual core. Here the monuments overwhelm the landscape. Bagan's 3,000-odd temples rival Cambodia's Angkor Wat in terms of scope. This is one of the most spectacular sights in Buddhist Myanmar. The monuments were erected mostly from the 11th to 13th centuries AD, when Bagan was the seat of the Myanmar dynasty. The taller and more majestic temples throb with history and devotion, its layout mingling Hindu styles with local brewed Buddhist images. Completed in 1090, is the crowning achievement of early temple architecture. With majestic proportions, it is considered the finest, largest, and most revered of the Bagan temples. The Ananda feels like a magic cave full of wonders. The corridors are honeycombed with niches which hold small stone images of Buddha in various postures.
Small Buddha called 1,424.
30-year-old Nior has been a temple guide in Bagan for the last 5 years. He brings both local and foreign tourists around the Bagan archaeological zone, regaling them with the stories that chronicle each site. Inside the main block of the Ananda temple is the standing image of Buddha, 31 feet high, its face beautifully illuminated by light filtering in from above. It is close to 900 years old. These ancient religious edifices, built in the early days of Bagan, hark back to a time when Bagan flourished as a royal city and the heart of a great kingdom. The Dhammayagi temple is also one of the most massive temples here in Bagan. This temple is noted for its fine brickwork, the bricks fitting so close together that there is hardly any space within. These architectural feats were painstakingly built by Myanmar masons without the use of modern machinery or technology. Yet they've withstood earthquakes and natural calamities. Bagan's prime began in 1044 and went into rapid decline at the end of the 13th century. It's hard to imagine Bagan as it once was. But a writer once said, "Time has a relentless enemy, but linger a while among these monuments. Linger, and dimly at first, then with increasing clarity, comes a realization of the glory that was Bagan." Indeed, it is when the beauty of the setting and the immensity of cultures come together that the journey through the very soul of Myanmar is made all the more meaningful.